сейчас мы приближаемся.
We are approaching the Zhambyl Alatau Western Spurs. This is the Big Kastek Ridge. The Kara-Kastak hunting farm is tucked away on its northern exposition. But let us first introduce to you the heroes of today's show. Vitaly Pashkov is the Chief Hunting Officer of Kazakhstan Hunter and Fisherman Society. He has devoted years to conservation and knows everything about the flora and fauna of Zhambyl District. Olga Gumirova is a journalist. She has been keen on petroglyphs since long time, and it has even become her second career. Yalan Jagiparov is also the member of our Petroglyph Seeker team. As a true patriot of his motherland, Yalan is eager to learn as much as possible about it. Dmitry Ananyev is a famous photographer crazy about traveling and making us happy with his great photos. Kamil Yakupov is the chief huntsman of the Kara-Kastak hunting farm. Today, he will guide us through the Zhambyl Alatau wildlife world. Saltanat Sapabayeva is an experienced traveler and another member of the Petroglyph Hunter Club. Baljan Baltasheva is an artist and videographer, but today she'll try on the shoes of wild animal recorder. Finally, Maxim Levitin is our host. This time he promised to devote his time not only to questioning the show's heroes, but also to searching animals, both live and engraved. The road winds along the snow-capped Zhambyl Alatau Ridge. Following it through the Kordai Pass, you can get to Bishkek. Yet, the expedition group decides to split in the village of Kara-Kastak. Vitaly Pashkov with his inspectors turns right towards the Zhambyl Alatau mountains to prepare everything for route counting mission. The second group, headed by Olga Gumirova, will head out towards the eastern spurs of the Joly mountain system. We want to try our luck on the Kulzhabas Ridge, hoping to discover some ancient petroglyphic drawings. A day later, we will meet up with Vitaly's group. Since we are already in Zhambyl District, it would be a shame not to let our audience enjoy its historical and natural attractions. The plan is to first learn a little about the Bronze Age hunters, and then Vitaly and his team will share with us the secrets of modern hunting. Left of us, the Zhambyl Alatau is sparkling with its snow-white summits. The Joly mountains are darkening on our right. We intend to visit one of the oldest Jatasu rock galleries of the Akkainar sanctuary, which isn't hard as it was discovered 12 years ago by the expedition of Alkay Margulan Institute of Archaeology, headed by Doctor of Historical Sciences Alexey Maryashev. Olga Gumirova was a member of that expedition, and we asked her to give us some background info about the site. This monument is included in the Sacred Site Register of Kazakhstan. The sanctuary is relatively unknown as it was found quite recently, in 2008. We turn off the road and, driving over puddles and salt marshes, move along a country road until we bump into a cattle farm. Good petroglyph hunters always start their search mission by interviewing the locals. According to the local law of courtesy, prior to carrying out some research near wintering sites, it's considered good mannered to introduce oneself. It also makes sense to talk to the locals because they might give us some leads. We pass by the farm and strike into the Kulzhabas Sea massif. Dr. Maryashev and his team dated the earliest petroglyphs in Akkainar to the early Bronze Age. That is, they're around 4,000 years old. In the valley in front of the sanctuary there was a village. The excavation showed that some of its houses stood right on top of the ancient brickwork. A small grove along a dried-up stream will be our campsite for tonight. Today you can easily step over it. Yet, paleoecological, geographical and archaeological data tell us that it wasn't the case in the past. In the 2nd millennium BC, the climate in the Joly mountains was warmer and wetter. Numerous streams and rivers trimmed with floodplain forests were flowing down the slopes. You can still see their ancient streambeds. Extensive fertile plains, ideal for hunting, farming and cattle breeding, spread out nearby. The Paleolithic hunters and gatherers roamed through the Jatasu expanses for more than a dozen millennia. Prior to them, for hundreds of thousands of years, these ends were inhabited by Neanderthals. Settlements built by cattle breeders and farmers started appearing here in the early 2nd millennium BC. We are now at one of them. Along the bed of the now dry river within a 15-kilometer stretch, archaeologists located over 10 settlements, preserved in the form of stone masonwork on the dwelling sites. On the one hand, a tribe or clan would spread out across an area to equally distribute pasture and hunting grounds. On the other hand, the settlements were quite compact to quickly mobilize in case of an enemy attack. Scientists consider the Akkainar complex one of the oldest in the Jatasu area. Rock drawings give a good idea about the Bronze Age fauna. Images of ibexes, red deer, camels, wild horses and bulls as well as hunting scenes are quite clear and compelling. It appears that in those days hunting continued to play an important supportive role in the lives of ancient herders and farmers.
На соседнем камне мы видим изображение горного козла.
On the stone nearby we see the image of a mountain goat. Take care.
Закрученные круглые рога.
This one appears like a ram. Do you see the twisted round horns and the typical body shape? It means that argali and ibexes both used to live within the same mountainous area. Unfortunately today they are not around. Archaeologists call the Akkainar the sanctuary of 1,000 bulls, which is true. Among the rock drawings there are multiple images of bulls. Hundreds of large and very carefully designed petroglyphs appearing to depict the Eurasian aurochs, a steppe subspecies of an extinct primitive bull. The last aurochs lived out their last days in the forests of Eastern Europe, yet a long time ago their habitat had stretched for thousands of kilometers, from the Mongolian steppes to Spain. There were 3 subspecies, one of which, the Eurasian steppe aurochs, had lived in the steppes of Central Asia. It's unknown when humans destroyed the species. It's only known when the last representative of the forest subspecies was killed. It happened in 1627 on the territory of present-day Poland. Now the Polish Ministry of Environment Protection has established the Aurochs Cloning Association. As a biological species, the wild aurochs became extinct, but it had left a rich legacy. Almost all types of modern cattle are its offspring. Understanding the economic significance of domestic animal breeding, the Bronze Era people often depicted the aurochs as a sacral symbol. Bull was sacral in many Bronze and Early Iron cultures. The oldest of the sacred texts that had reached us, the Zoroastrian Avesta, tells about the sacred Sasaok bull that transported people from the middle to the supreme world on its back. For the deceased to reach the destination and withstand the cold, dark and horrors of the afterlife, 3 fires were burning on the broad bull's back. The better thoughts and action people had and made in their earthly life, the brighter those fires burned and the higher chances they had to safely reach the upper world. Ancient religions didn't appear out of the blue, but had matured for centuries. Myths and legends overlapped and layered over each other, got transferred by word of mouth with trade caravans and during military campaigns. Whereas Christianity sprang out from the Old Testament Judaism, Tengriism and Pantheism, culting nature as the source of everything living, were at the core of Zoroastrianism.
Ольга Николаевна, это и есть?
Olga Nikolaevna, is this that wonderful bull? Look at its horns, legs and tail. Look how beautiful this bull is. Its horns are quite unusual. Pay attention to the detailed bodywork and a big ball on its tail. By its style, this drawing belongs to the Zhambyl type. That is, it's similar to the bulls found in the Zhambyl Tas sanctuary. This image is also special because it was thanks to it that we were able to discover the Akkainar sanctuary in the first place. That day we were driving through the valley. The whole day was spent in vain as we didn't find anything and we were downhearted. Suddenly we saw a huge black stone plate and decided to check it out. Our driver was the first one to run up to it. He wasn't a very emotional person, but seeing this wonderful bull, he started jumping and screaming, "Bull! Bull!" So we stayed here for a couple of days to investigate the place better. We were both delighted and greatly disappointed. The sanctuary suffered substantial destruction. The stone from the rock massive was used for building the settlement at its foot. It's quite possible that some of the images were thus destroyed. Yet, while one to an extent can justify the economic needs of the builders, painting petroglyphs over with oil paint is simply a monument to human stupidity and ignorance.
Ну и, к сожалению, очень много следов вандализма.
Sadly, there are so many traces of vandalism around.
Вот такие вот.
Some unenlightened people leave their names over these ancient drawings. For 1,000 years, this place has remained sacred. Peoples, tribes, eras replaced each other, yet the tradition remained. Above the bull's image of the early Bronze Age, we see a caravan of camels. The Silk Way passed here 1.52 years after the chisel of an ancient artist first touched this rock. Apparently, a caravaneer also decided to leave a mark in history in this sacred place, but at the same time carefully preserving the image of the bull. It is unknown where from and to he was heading, yet we know for sure that he was an educated person who respected the shrines of the bygone generations. According to Alexei Nikolaevich, the sanctuary existed for 1,000 years. It had probably appeared in the Bronze era. Later came the Saka and Turkic tribes. It is surprising that all subsequent generations considered it a sacred place and understood the secret meaning of sacred drawings.
Они понимали смысл, тайный смысл священных рисунков.
Many petroglyphs depict two balls connected by a straight line. There is an opinion that it is some kind of a sacral astronomical symbol indicating the opposition of the sun and the moon. Another, more prosaic theory says that it is the picture of an ancient hunter weapon, bolas, that consisted of 2 or 4 stones tied together with a strong rope or leather belt. In the Stone Age, it was quite common. American Indians still have it today.
Сакские рисунки очень...
The Saka drawings are very expressive. Usually they depict a predator hunting its hoofed prey. As a rule, it's a wolf. The drawings of Dr. Maryashev feature images of people with wolf heads that might have been shamans wearing wolf masks.
Ну вот здесь антропоморфное существо.
Look at this anthropomorphic creature. It's hard to say what it is, but it has ears and a narrow muzzle. In ancient Egyptian mythology, a wolf-headed man, Anubis, was the guardian of the scales at the Osiris trial in the Kingdom of the Dead. In the Scythian burial tradition, shamans wearing wolf masks accompanied the dead on their last journey at the burial fire. In his books, the father of history, Herodotus, wrote that beyond the land of Scythians there lived dog-headed people. Would you agree that this fact hints to the shared nature of mythologies of different cultures and times? Is there a connection between these first rock drawings, the medieval belief in werewolves, and the Twilight film series that collected almost $500 million? Of course there is, and it's called human culture. You can devote all your life to studying the Akkainar, but it will hardly be enough to unravel all the puzzles of cattle breeders and hunters of the Bronze Age. It's high time for us to head to the Karakistak hunting farm, where Vitaly Pashkov and his colleagues are waiting for us. The hunting farm is divided into monitoring sections, supervised by individual huntsmen. Each section has up to 8 animal counting routes. Setting up a hunting farm starts with drafting a hunting management plan. It's like a business plan to ensure sustainable wildlife resource management. All counting routes get mapped. For convenience of recounts, they're usually 10 kilometers long. Signing the land consolidation contract, a hunting operator undertakes to keep game records. WRAC, short for Winter Route Animal Counts. We're entering the snow zone, and our vehicles start skidding.
В это время года снеговая линия в Каракастеке.
At this time of the year, the snow line in the Karakistak is about 1,200 meters above sea level. Over there you can see the border guard post. A border outfit is on duty here in summer. The national border with Kyrgyzstan passes over the top of the main ridge. This is the northern boundary of the habitat of a very interesting animal, Indian crested porcupine. If we are lucky, we might see it tonight. That's it. End of the road. We're leaving our vehicles behind and will continue our journey on snowmobiles.
На территории нашего хозяйства
On the territory of our farm, there are roe deer, boars, morels, foxes, badgers, porcupines, pheasants, chukars, and partridges. Whereas large ungulate counts are usually done visually, predators and small animals are counted by their tracks. In addition, photo traps that appeared just recently allow monitoring rare animals which are almost impossible to see with your own eyes.
учет косуль.
We carry out roe deer, boar and morel counts twice a year. That is, they are subject to year-round monitoring. Since the Outdoor World team will also participate in the count, we need to undergo a briefing. Baljan, this is your logbook, and this is your snowmobile. You know how to drive it, right? Of course. If you see any tracks crossing the route, stop and identify them, as well as mark down their direction and quantity. Here you need to write down the animal species and the track direction in relation to the route. The angle can be different, from 90 to 15 degrees. It can be anything. It's very important to log the angle value.
И вот этот вот угол тоже нужно заносить в журнал.
О, я, кажется, нашла следы.
I think I found some tracks.
Дядь Камиль!
Uncle Camille, I think I found another track line. Should I log it? What kind of tracks? Here, look. But these are my footsteps. I walked here some time ago.
Я здесь ходил.
Got it. Well, this is what huntsman's job is all about. He or she has to be able to identify animal tracks. Sometimes the tracks are melted so much that I log in track not identified. Then don't be surprised to see a lot of not identified entries in my log today. Poor game managers and huntsmen, but today Baljan and I act as animal monitors. Baljan has already learned to identify human and cow tracks, but it's still a lot of time till the evening. I hope by that time we will log a lot of tracks in our logbook.
Учетный журнал заполним.
For Baljan, it's just a game. But in fact, even experienced huntsmen do not possess sufficient qualification to reliably carry out route animal counts. And these are roe deer tracks. Now we only need to log everything properly. There were 3 animals, and here they split up. At least now I know what roe deer tracks look like. Learning by doing in action. Despite the modest achievements, our film crew are doing their best to grasp the basics of the trade.
Виталий, я так понимаю, что...
So Vitali, let's recap. In simple terms, Formozov's formula of calculating animal population density is the number of tracks of a given species crossing the route counting line in one day, multiplied by a scaling factor. The scaling factor depends on the average distance that an animal walks in one day. The question is how you calculate this distance. Say a porcupine's daily walk shouldn't exceed 100 to 200 meters. Yet a wolf can easily do 25-30 kilometers a day. There are special tables containing the corresponding data for all species. We just apply them. So the data in them is mean. You don't check them every time, right? No, we don't do it every time. Cross-checking ourselves. It also depends on weather conditions. If monitoring an animal species is of great scientific importance, then researchers don't rely on spreadsheets and track animals physically. User counts don't have to be as accurate.
А вот как вы комбинируете снегоход?
How do you do winter counts? Do you use skis or snowshoes to get through the snow?
И даже
Well, if it's impossible to use a vehicle, we put on skis. Where it's impossible to use skis like steep hills, we simply walk on foot. The final output of a counting mission are two figures: the total number of animals in the farm and population density per 1,000 hectares. These are the main hunting farm performance criteria.
В лучших охотхозяйствах мира бывает...
The best hunting farms of the world have up to 60 animal heads per 1,000 hectares. Even 20 animals is still quite good. In our case, we have only 8 animals per 1,000 hectares. We do our best to increase this figure by way of biotech and protection measures. For instance, setting up salt gardens. Does it work? Is animal density growing? Yes, our counting data clearly demonstrate it. Your skis look quite simple and not expensive. How convenient are they? If you want, you can try them out. Do you mean I could go for a ski walk using them now? Of course. It's nice to make a short ski run if the slope isn't too steep. Our training is over and we are dividing into 2 groups. While Maxim and Kamil are heading northeast on the snowmobile, Vitaly and Baljan ascend the ridge of one of the gorges. Simultaneously with counting the tracks, they also check the photo traps. The only way to break through steep and snow-filled gorges is to walk on foot. A photo trap with a good lithium battery can work up to 6 months and take thousands of images. The main thing is to install it so that the photo cell doesn't react to the movement of tree branches. It looks like this bear really liked the photo trap. It's tasting it. Westwards, the Transilli-Alatau spurs gradually grow smaller. There are almost no coniferous woods here, only very tight rosehips, meadowsweet and mountain acacia thickets with sporadic hawthorn and Sivers apples trees. The banks of streams are densely overgrown with willow. A very important fact: for a long time there hadn't been any morals here, but now the deer have returned. Morals prefer areas with coniferous forest, but can do without them also, as long as there is some protection and mountain pastures don't suffer from overgrazing. In recent years, photo traps catch more and more morals, proving that their population is slowly growing. In mountainous terrain, observation from dominating heights is a fairly effective way of counting wild animals. The modern strategy of managing animal world resources is called adaptive. Landscape, social, economic and cultural differences do not allow applying the same universal methods everywhere. During our last trip to the US, we were surprised, for example, to see a blank in the white-tailed deer line in the Montana State Fish and Wildlife Service report. It simply meant that no white-tailed deer counts were done within the state. Yet 150,000 such deer are hunted in Montana every year. We asked local scientists to explain the situation. They told us that the state's white-tailed deer population was stable and by all means exceeded 500,000 heads. Population assessment monitoring is usually done by individual professionals, as there is no need to spend money on expensive all-state counting efforts. If scientists notice that the population is decreasing, they will raise a corresponding concern and the counting will be carried out. Rare animals like bighorn sheep, of course, are a totally different pair of shoes. Biologists carefully and closely monitor their quantity and population density using satellite tracking sensors and other modern technologies.
Не стоит забывать, что горы – это не ферма всех животных.
We shouldn't forget that mountains are not a farm. It's impossible to count all animals 100%. But it's possible to get closer to actual numbers if the work is carried out properly and if huntsmen know their rounds. For huntsmen, today is more like a game and not a real counting mission, as they have to devote their time to the guests with cameras. Usually, everything is done faster and without extra talking. While Vitaly and Baljan are going down this slope, Maxim and Camille saw something interesting on the ridge. It looks like a mountain wrestling competition. We are watching 6 marmots walking right over the snow. The fauna of Kazakhstan includes 3 marmot species. In the western Tian Shan, it's the Menzbier's marmot. In the hillocks of central Kazakhstan, it's steppe marmot, also known as baibak, and in the mountains of Tian Shan, Zhetysu, Alatau, and Altai, it's grey marmot. These are the grey marmots. Over winter, marmots lose up to 30% of their fat. Now they seem quite propped up, especially the elder ones. They spread-eagled on top of warm stones and are basking. The younger ones are enjoying themselves too, playing. Marmots fall asleep in early September and wake up only in late February. The energy accumulated over winter needs a way out in the form of friendly wrestling duels. Marmots are walking over the snow but cannot do it for too long. It's still cold. We wish we stayed to finish watching the Marmot Wrestling Championship, but we need to hurry to try to encounter some roe deer, which is quite hard to do during the day. During the day, roe deer hide in meadow-sweet thickets, so it's hard seeing them, not to mention filming. Just some contours. These doing wild animal photo and video recording know about the so-called regime time. Early morning and evening before sunset. This is the best time to picture them because all the ungulates come out to graze. Sadly, we cannot wait until the evening and have to try getting a good shot in daytime. In winter, roe deer may gather in large herds, but split into small groups closer to spring. A male roe deer is hiding under a hawthorn tree.
Мы получили разрешение поднять их.
We got the permission to scare off these 3 roe deer grazing in front of us with our drone. Let's try it. The male roe deer thinks it's a large dragonfly or an avian raptor flying over it, but is sure that its shelter is secure enough. A couple more roe deer are resting a little higher. Let's try locating them from above. Aha! Gotcha! The scared roe deer are running away, but not too far. Siberian roe deer is an expensive but very popular hunting trophy. Size-wise, it's much larger than the European subspecies, so Siberian roe deer hunting tours are constantly in demand at the world hunting exhibitions. The cost of such a tour usually does not exceed 2,000 euros, including the trophy price and all the services. The retired and middle-income individuals willingly buy them. In Europe, about 12 million people are into trophy hunting. Many of them can't afford expensive tours, but still want to go hunting in an exotic country. Roe deer is their best choice. Under the condition of good animal population density, hunting farms can receive Western hunters by groups of up to 10 people. You cannot surprise anyone with a roe deer in Kazakhstan. Porcupine is a totally different story. Very few can boast of seeing this exotic beast in the wild in our latitudes.
А вот здесь нора индийского дикобраза.
This is the hole of an Indian porcupine. We are now in the northernmost part of its habitat. It's quite rare, and it's almost impossible to see it during the day. Photo traps get much luckier, so let's go and check one out. There are fresh tracks on the path. It's hard to confuse a porcupine's track with that of some other animal. Only bears have such long claws, but the porcupine's paw print is much smaller. Is it walking here regularly? Yes, I have been seeing its tracks here for 5 years. Kamil managed to get several porcupine images. Not very good quality, but it doesn't matter. The main thing is that the hole is occupied.
Питается дикобраз корнями шиповника.
Porcupines feed on the roots of rosehips and other shrubs. They usually hide their holes in the most impassable thickets. We will not try approaching the hole now, but by the tracks it's clear that it's somewhere nearby, in this brushwood.
Вот в этих зарослях.
We have covered 10 kilometers of the counting route and have to return to the camp. Both groups meet up near the cars. Baljan submits her log. We hope it's filled out properly. And now it's time to have a bite.
В зимнем маршрутном учете главное...
In the course of winter route counting, the main thing is lunch. Insufficient lunch means fewer registered animals. After a good lunch, the mood is good and the number of animals sharply increases.
Численность зверя резко увеличивается.
Vitaly and his team remain to continue the counting. We are so grateful to them for spending time to train us and hope that this knowledge will come handy someday. Meanwhile, it's time for us to go back to civilization and get ready for new adventures.